everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Time Travels with Unicorn, the podcast where we journey through the corridors of time and explore the fascinating history of India. I'm your host, Unicorn, and today we are going way back to the Vedic and later Vedic periods of ancient India. So, let's start our journey around 1500 BCE, when Vedic age began. The Aryans, who were initially nomadic pastoralists, entered the Indian subcontinent through the northwestern passes. They settled in the region known as Saptasindhu, or the land of seven rivers. Can you tell me which state of modern India was known as Saptasindhu during Vedic era? Moving on, the Vedic period was divided into two phases, the early Vedic and later Vedic period. Let's first talk about the early Vedic period between 1500 to 1000 BCE. It was named after the Rig Veda, the oldest of the four Vedas. The Rig Veda consists of 1028 hymns dedicated to various deities like Indra, Agni and Varuna. During this period, society was largely agrarian. Cattle were central to their economy, and wealth was measured in terms of cows. Do you know, the people during that time used to quest for cows, named as Kovisti wars, often leading to conflicts between different tribes. The political units were called Janas, and leaders were known as Rajan. Now you have to tell me what was the smallest political unit called during Rig Vedic period. As we move into the later Vedic period, that was between 1000 to 600 BCE, the society underwent significant changes. The economy became more agricultural, and the use of iron tools, especially the plough, transformed the farming practices. And for monetary transactions, they used a barter system, which is the exchange of goods or services without money. The social structure became more rigid, with the Varna system solidifying into four distinct classes: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. During this period, the importance of rituals increased, leading to the composition of texts like Yajurveda and Samaveda. One fascinating aspect of Vedic period was their understanding of time. The smallest unit of time was called Truti, which is an astonishingly the tiny fraction of second, isn't it? Even religion evolved during this phase. The focus shifted from nature worship to more complex rituals and sacrifices such as Ashwamedha Yagya and Rajasuya Yagya. The Upanishads, which refers to the students sitting close to their teachers to learn, had emphasized philosophical ideas like karma and moksha, which began to be composed towards the end of this period. Also, the later Vedic period saw the rise of Mahajanpadas, who were later kingdoms that laid the foundation for later Indian religions, including Buddhism and Jainism. Before we wrap up today's journey through time, let's reflect on what we have learned. The transition from Vedic to later Vedic period marks significant cultural and societal evolution in ancient India. From oral traditions to philosophical texts, each step laid the groundwork for future civilization. So this was a quick summary, and I hope you enjoyed our tour through the Vedic and later Vedic periods. Remember, history isn't about memorizing the facts, but it's about understanding the connections between events, ideas, and cultures. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. I'm Unicorn, signing off. Until next time, keep exploring, learning, and stay curious.
A man who saw the Congress tottering to its fall. A man whose one of the greatest ambitions while in India was to assist Congress to its peaceful demise. A man who dreamt to be the Viceroy of India and knew about her and her problems more than any other Viceroy at the time of his appointment. A man whose high-handed actions finally let the Indian national movement go full throttle. Lord George Nathaniel Curzon is indeed one of the most interesting characters in the story of the Raj. Thus, in today's question, we shall evaluate the policies of Lord Curzon and their long-term implications on the national movement. Lord Curzon served as the Viceroy of India during the late 19th and the early 20th century. During his tenure, his many policies solidified his position as a prudent and a capable statesman, but at the same time also as one of an imperialist, a racist, and an apathetic administrator whose policies eventually did more harm than good to the interests of the Raj in the long term. His administrative insight is reflected in the many policies, initiatives and programs he oversaw during his tenure. Some of the policies and their effects are: A. Police reforms. Curzon implemented the recommendations of the Fraser Commission, which made police more efficient and powerful. But this was often used to curb the voices of dissent and protest of Indian nationalists. B. Educational reforms. With the Universities Act of 1904, Curzon aimed at reforming the Indian educational system and make it more disciplined. But in reality, it increased the official control over the universities and attempted to stifle the intellectual liberty of young Indian minds. C. Famine Commission. While the MacDonald Commission did contribute to providing relief to the famine, it undermined the effect of suffering and overstated the work done by the government. D. Agriculture and irrigation reforms. While Moncrieff's Commission's recommendations to improve irrigation and then the legislations like Punjab Land Alienation Act, Cooperative Credit Societies Act did aim to instigate scientific cultivation. It did so at the expense of farmers as their lands were appropriated. Thus, this made Crown government highly unpopular in the longer run. A. Extension of railways. Scientific expansion of railways was one of the key highlights of Curzon's tenure. However, this expansion upset not only the tribal people whose lands were appropriated, but also indirectly helped in connecting hinterlands to the political hotbeds of the time. Further, it enhanced the role of railways as an instrument of British exploitation. F. Calcutta Corporation Act 1899. The Act reduced the number of elected representatives to the Calcutta Corporation. The aim, clearly, was to deprive Indians of self-governance and serve the interests of the European business community, which often complained of delays in grants of licenses. G. Judicial reforms. Though under Curzon, the number of judges, their salaries, their pensions, all was increased. And even Indian Code of Civil Procedure was revised, yet nothing substantial happened due to delays. H. Army reforms. The army was reorganized under Lord Kitchener to overcome the Russian threat. This resulted in increased British presence in the army hierarchy. The policy was often met with discontent among Indian officers who were denied promotions and equal opportunities. The discrimination contributed to the growing resentment and nationalistic sentiment in the Indian Armed Forces. Archaeological Survey of India. Curzon established the ASI to protect and conserve India's cultural heritage. And while ASI did make significant contributions to the preservation of Indian monuments and artifacts, it was eventually a means for the British to exert control over India's cultural narrative. However, the cornerstone of Curzon's policies will always be the partition of Bengal in 1905. Bengal was divided into two separate provinces. While the partition was done on the pretext of administrative convenience, the real motive was to check the relentlessly rising nationalism among the Bengalis. It eventually galvanized the Indian National Congress and various other groups to intensify their efforts for self-rule, eventually leading to the reunification of Bengal in 1911. Thus, Curzon's policies were motivated by the urge to make the British position in India impregnable and keep India as a close reserve for Britain. However, his racist and high-handed attitude and efforts to arrest Indian nationalism were counterproductive. Today, history remembers Curzon more as an autocrat than a benevolent viceroy. I hope you liked the session. Thank you so much.
Hello and namaste everyone. Welcome to Srijan India ONE's community-led series, Podcast 1. I'm your host Morningstar, bringing to you some fascinating topics on geography and environment. Today, we are tackling an important and timely question. How is India addressing its biodiversity conservation challenges? As we know, biodiversity is fundamental to our ecological balance and economic well-being, but it also faces numerous threats. We'll explore how India is navigating these challenges through our episode today. So, let's begin, shall we? Okay, so first off, why is biodiversity conservation critical for India? Well, India, home to nearly 8% of the world's species, is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet. Biodiversity is essential not only for the maintenance of ecosystem services like air and water purification, pollination, and climate regulation, but also for supporting livelihoods, particularly in rural and indigenous communities. In a nation as diverse as India, conserving biodiversity is also about preserving cultural and spiritual values. Now here's a fun fact. Did you know that the Western Ghats, one of the world's 8 hottest hotspots of biodiversity, hosts over 7,000 species of flowering plants? This rich biodiversity underscores the need for its conservation. Now, what are the primary threats to biodiversity in India in the present scenario? Well, India's biodiversity is under threat from multiple factors, including habitat loss due to deforestation, agricultural expansion, and urbanization, while factors like overexploitation of natural resources, pollution, climate change, and invasive species are also major culprits. The Western Ghats, for example, are facing significant threats from illegal logging and mining activities. Similarly, the Sundarbans, a critical habitat for the Royal Bengal tiger, is increasingly vulnerable to rising sea levels and cyclones exacerbated by climate change. Now here's a question for you. Which invasive species has caused significant ecological damage to the water bodies in India, particularly in Kerala? You can give your answers in the comments below. So, what measures has India implemented to protect its biodiversity? See, India has adopted a multifaceted approach to biodiversity conservation, including legislative measures like the National Biodiversity Act of 2002 and the establishment of protected areas such as national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves. In 2024, India has made strides with initiatives like the expansion of the Project Snow Leopard in the Himalayas and the Mishti scheme focused on mangrove restoration. These programs not only aim to protect biodiversity but also integrate sustainable livelihood opportunities for local communities. Now here's another question for you. Which Indian river basin is known for its rich biodiversity and has recently been the focus of a major conservation initiative? And what is the name of the initiative involved here? Do give your answers in the comments below. So, how does India's biodiversity conservation align with global efforts? Well, India is actively involved in global biodiversity conservation efforts. As a signatory to international agreements like the Convention on Biological Diversity and the Ramsar Convention, India has committed to global biodiversity targets. In 2024, India is participating in the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, advocating for an approach that integrates biodiversity conservation with sustainable development goals, ensuring that conservation efforts are both equitable and effective. Now here's another question for you. Which endangered primate species endemic to the Western Ghats and known for its distinct mane has been the focus of conservation efforts due to its critical role in seed dispersal? Answer in the comments below. Now, what are some of the examples of community involvement in biodiversity conservation in India? Community involvement is vital to the success of biodiversity conservation in India. The Joint Forest Management Program, for instance, involves local communities in the protection and management of forests. This initiative has been particularly successful in Odisha, leading to significant forest regeneration of the revival of local wildlife. Another example is the Apatanis of Arunachal Pradesh, whose traditional rice fish farming systems are a model of sustainable agriculture that conserves biodiversity. These indigenous practices are increasingly being recognized and integrated into national conservation strategies as part of the 2024 Biodiversity Action Plan. So, that wraps up our exploration of how India is addressing biodiversity conservation challenges. Remember, biodiversity is not just a buzzword, it's the bedrock of our ecological and economic systems. Similarly, biodiversity conservation is not just about protecting the species, but about maintaining the delicate balance of life on Earth, upon which human survival depends. Now, before we end this session, here's a final question for you to ponder. Discuss the various challenges India faces in biodiversity conservation and critically analyze the effectiveness of recent initiatives in addressing these challenges. You can share your structured answer in the comment section or on the discuss handle of our official website in about 250 words. Thank you for joining us today on this journey. And stay tuned for more insights and updates. This was your host Morningstar, guiding you through the dawn of knowledge in geography and environment. Have a great day, everyone. Adios.
Hello, konnichiwa, namaste everyone. This is your host Mr. Diplomat and welcome to Srijan India ONE's Community Podcast. A podcast where we try to learn the A to Z of international relations, our neighbors, and much more. In the last podcast, we discussed the strategic importance of Myanmar vis-a-vis India's Act East policy. Do check it out to further your Indo-Burmese knowledge. Our today's discussion centers around one of India's oldest friends, Nepal. The question for today's podcast is: examine the historical and geopolitical factors behind the India-Nepal border disputes, particularly the Kalapani-Lipu Lake issue. What should be India's approach to resolving these disputes? The question first appeared in the UPSC CSC Mains 2020 exam. It was part of the GS Paper 2, which deals with governance, constitution, polity, social justice, and international relations. Let's try answering it. As I mentioned in our first podcast, you can change friends but not neighbors. This sentiment underscores the importance of resolving border disputes with Nepal, a country with which India shares deep historical, cultural, and geographical ties. The India-Nepal border disputes, particularly the Kalapani-Lipu Lake issue, have deep historical roots and significant geopolitical implications. These disputes have periodically strained the otherwise close and multifaceted relationship between the two nations. Understanding the historical context and the geopolitical dynamics at play is essential for devising an effective resolution strategy. Let's look at the historical factors. The origins of the border disputes can be traced back to the Treaty of Sugauli, 1815-1816, between the British East India Company and the Kingdom of Nepal. The treaty demarcated the Mahakali River, referred to as the Kali River in Nepal, as the boundary in the western sector. However, ambiguity in identifying the river's source has led to differing interpretations, with both India and Nepal claiming the Kalapani-Lipu Lake region. After India gained independence in 1947, the colonial-era boundaries were inherited by the newly formed Republic of India. While the borders were largely respected, periodic disagreements over maps and territorial claims emerged. In the 1960s, the strategic importance of the Kalapani region, lying at the tri-junction of India, Nepal, and China, gained prominence, further complicating the issue. What are the geopolitical factors? The Kalapani-Lipu Lake area holds significant strategic value for India as it lies close to the Tibetan Autonomous Region of China. The region is crucial for India's defense and has been used as a base for monitoring Chinese movements. The construction of infrastructure such as roads has been a point of contention, with Nepal perceiving it as an encroachment on its territory. Nepal's relationship with China has grown significantly in recent years, driven by economic cooperation and infrastructure projects under the Belt and Road Initiative. China's influence has emboldened Nepal to assert its claims more forcefully, leading to increased tensions with India. The release of revised maps by both countries in 2020 showing the disputed territories within their borders further escalated the situation. In Nepal, the border issue has been leveraged by various political factions to stoke nationalism and gain political mileage. The issue has also resonated with the broader population, complicating diplomatic efforts to resolve the dispute. In India, the issue is sensitive due to the strategic and security implications, with public opinion strongly favoring the defense of the country's territorial integrity. India's approach to resolving the dispute includes: India should prioritize diplomatic channels to resolve the border disputes. Bilateral talks, possibly mediated by a neutral third party or an international organization, could help both sides reach a mutually acceptable solution. It is essential to establish clear communication to avoid misunderstandings and manage public sentiment on both sides. Historical documentation and joint surveys. To address the differing interpretations of the Treaty of Sugauli, India and Nepal could undertake joint surveys and historical research to clarify the border's demarcation. This approach would involve experts and scholars from both countries to provide an objective analysis of historical documents and maps. Both countries should implement CBMs, or confidence-building measures, to reduce tensions along the border. Regular meetings between local military commanders, joint patrols, and the establishment of a hotline can help prevent misunderstandings and build trust. Additionally, promoting cultural and economic ties at the local level can strengthen people-to-people relations. India could leverage its economic assistance and development projects in Nepal to foster goodwill and cooperation. By addressing Nepal's developmental needs and ensuring the border infrastructure projects benefit both sides, India can create a conducive environment for resolving the disputes. In conclusion, the India-Nepal border disputes are rooted in historical ambiguities and influenced by contemporary geopolitical dynamics. A careful and balanced approach, combining diplomacy, historical research, confidence building, and economic cooperation is essential for resolving these disputes. India should strive to maintain the long-standing friendship with Nepal while safeguarding its strategic interests, ensuring that the resolution of disputes strengthens bilateral ties and contributes to regional stability. Time for some trivia. Nepal is the birthplace of Siddhartha Gautama, known as Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. He was born in Lumbini, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in southern Nepal around 563 BC. As we end today's podcast, here are 2 questions for you to answer. Question number 1. Discuss the impact of China's growing influence in Nepal on India-Nepal relations. How should India respond to this changing dynamic? Question number 2. Assess the potential of hydropower cooperation between India and Nepal. What are the challenges and benefits of such projects for both countries? You can answer these at our official website mentioned in the description below. Hope you liked today's session. Until next time, this is your host, Mr. Diplomat, signing off. Bye, sayonara, alvida. See you in the next podcast.
Dear listeners, welcome back to another episode of Understanding Bharat, where we decode the complexities of India's governance, polity and society one episode at a time. This is your host Ignis, and today we are going to dive into the buzzing concept of cooperative federalism with the help of a question asked in the UPSC Mains Exam 2023. The idea of cooperative federalism has been increasingly emphasized in India in recent times. Discussed with reference to the challenges faced by Indian federalism. Let's start with the basics. Federalism, as most of you might know, is like a political seesaw. On one end, you have the central government and on the other, the state governments. The idea is to balance power between the two. But here's the thing. Keeping that seesaw level is easier said than done, especially in a country as diverse and complex as India. Now, cooperative federalism is like adding a cushion to that seesaw. Instead of just balancing power, it's about both the center and the states working together, sharing resources and solving problems hand in hand. Sounds lovely, right? But it's not that easy. Fast forwarding to the 21st century, and India is dealing with challenges as multifaceted as its diverse culture, be it the economy, public health or climate change. This is where cooperative federalism steps in. It's like a strategic roundtable where the center and the states come together, share ideas and collaborate to find solutions that address these complex issues collectively. Before we look at the challenges, let's understand various constitutional and legislative provisions related to cooperative federalism. Number 1. Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog, replacing the Planning Commission, promotes a bottom-up approach to development. By providing transparent ranking through various indices like the State Health Index and the Indian Innovation Index, fosters healthy competition among the states as well as the state and the center. Number 2. Interstate Councils and Zonal Councils. Interstate Council, established under Article 263 and chaired by the Prime Minister, facilitates coordination between the center and the states. Zonal councils, created by the States Reorganization Act of 1956, help address regional issues and promote cooperation among the states within zones. Number 3. Goods and Services Tax or GST. The 101st Amendment Act introduced GST to create a uniform tax system across India. This tax, levied on the consumers by manufacturers,
simplifies the tax structure and promotes a unified economic environment. Number 4. The 7th Schedule. Article 246 of the 7th Schedule outlines the division of powers between the centre and the states in the form of union, state and concurrent list, ensuring a clear demarcation of boundaries. Number 5. Full Faith and Credit Clause. Article 261, Part 1 ensures that public actions, documents and judicial proceedings from one state are recognized throughout India, maintaining consistency and mutual respect across the country. Now let's unravel some of the key challenges and see how they play out in practice. Let's start with the classic issue: central government interference. Imagine you're working on a group project and every time you make a decision, someone from the outside keeps stepping in, changing the plans. In India, political interference in the functioning of state governments is a common phenomenon. This interference can hinder the cooperative relationship between the centre and the state governments and undermine the principles of cooperative federalism. Next up, we have the power imbalance. Picture a seesaw where one side is loaded with weights while the other side barely has any. That's the power dynamic between the central government and the states. The central government has more resources and authority, which sometimes leads to the state government feeling marginalized and unable to exercise their constitutional powers. Now let's talk about regional disparities. Think of India as a mosaic of states with varying levels of development. Some are thriving while others lag behind in terms of income, infrastructure and resources. These disparities can lead to uneven resource allocation and development, making cooperation effect more challenging. Regional disparities in this development results in issues such as violent conflicts, planned and unplanned migration, and so on. Fiscal autonomy is another sticking point. States often depend on the centre for funding, which can limit their ability to make independent financial decisions. Administrative bottlenecks are like traffic jams on the road to efficient governance. Bureaucratic delays can slow down the implementation of policies, impacting how cooperative federalism functions. Finally, political polarization. Political polarization can throw a wrench in the works when political differences between the centre and states become too pronounced, and it can lead to breakdowns in communication and cooperation. So where do we go from here? To foster true cooperative federalism, India needs to balance its federal and unitary aspect more effectively. This means promoting fiscal federalism, where states have greater control over the revenue, and enhancing the role of institutions like the interstate councils. The goal is to build a relationship of trust and cooperation between the centre and the states, ensuring that the principles of cooperative federalism are not just ideals but practical realities. And there you have it, a roadmap to a more harmonious federal future. It's like a relay race where every runner or state needs to trust the next to take the baton and run with it. But unlike a real relay race, there is no finish line. Just an ongoing marathon where the goal is to keep running together, stronger and faster with each passing mile. So whether you're cheering from the stands or running the race, remember, in the game of cooperative federalism, everyone wins when we work as a team. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to Understanding Bharat. I hope today's dive into the cooperative federalism gave you some fresh insights and sparked your curiosity. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share and drop a review. This is your host Ignis signing off. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious and keep the federal flame burning bright. Jai Hind.
Hello, Namaste and Jule everyone. Welcome to Srijan India ONE's community-led series, Podcast 1. I'm your host Atish on Science and Technology segment of the series. Today, we will be discussing on the question, what is the difference between nuclear fusion and nuclear fission? elaborate the development of the nuclear energy generation in the contemporary world. How does it contribute to energy security with respect to India? What are the collaborations of India with other countries and international agencies? Let's discuss the component of the question in detail and understand the approach using which we can answer it. First part of the question requires to provide the difference between nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. Let's put together the core definition. Nuclear fission, which is made up of two words, nuclear and fission. On the one hand, nuclear talks about the fundamental particle of an atom consisting of neutron, proton, and electron. Certain atoms are active in such a way that they disintegrate involving only one atom or combine involving two atoms and generate energy due to the loss in mass given by the Einstein equation E is equal to mc square. Fusion means process of combining and fission means process of disintegration. When a heavy nucleus, example uranium-238 or plutonium, splits into smaller nuclei, releasing energy, while nuclear fusion involves combining light nuclei, example hydrogen or proton, to form a heavier nucleus, example helium. While nuclear fusion requires two different atoms, nuclear fission requires only one atom. Also, nuclear fusion produces more energy compared to the nuclear fission due to the reason greater mass is converted into energy. While nuclear fission has been achieved to generate energy commercially, nuclear fusion is not yet commercially viable and research is under progress to generate energy via this means. Now, let us understand the development journey of nuclear energy generation. Nuclear power has existed since 1960s but saw a massive growth globally in the 1970s, 1980s and 1990s. Initially, fission-based reactor dominated, but contemporary efforts also explore fusion technology due to its potential for cleaner and more abundant power. India currently runs 22 nuclear reactors with an operational capacity of 6,780 megawatt, contributing 1.8% of the total energy mix. However, this falls short of the Department of Atomic Energy's vision of producing at least 20 gigawatts of nuclear power by 2020 and 48 gigawatt by 2030. Energy generation involves disintegration of radioactive nuclei and the fuel needs not to be extensively enriched. Even 10% enriched uranium can be utilized to produce energy, while around 60% highly enriched raw material could also be used in nuclear weapon. Some of the nuclear fusion plants are Tarapur Atomic Power Station located in Tarapur, Palghar in India, Kakrapar Atomic Power Project located in Kakrapar, Gujarat, Rawat Bhata Nuclear Power Plant located in Rawat Bhata, Rajasthan, Chutka Atomic Power Station, Madhya Pradesh, Kaiga in Karnataka, Gorakhpur in Haryana. Some of the nuclear fusion research undertaken by India are Aditya Tokamak, located at the Institute of Plasma Research in Gandhinagar, Gujarat, Steady State Superconducting Tokamak SST-1, situated at the Institute for Plasma Research in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Recently, a tokamak reactor to achieve a net energy gain efficiency greater than 1 was the ST-40, developed by the researcher from Tokamak Energy Limited in United Kingdom. In this monumental achievement, ions inside the compact fusion reactor, which is barely a meter, less than 3 feet, across, were heated to a staggering 100 million degrees Celsius. This breakthrough brings us closer to making nuclear fusion energy a practical reality. Now, let's discuss the perspective of nuclear energy for energy security in India. Expanding nuclear capacity significantly contributes to India's energy security. It provides a stable and reliable source of power, reduces dependence on fossil fuel, and mitigates the impact of volatile global energy market. India's ambitious three-stage nuclear power production plan aims to utilize its vast thorium reserve. Collaborations with countries like the United States, France, Russia, and others have bolstered India's credibility as a responsible nuclear power. India also has civil nuclear agreement with 14 countries, including the US, France, Japan, and the United Kingdom. These agreements facilitate nuclear cooperation, technology exchange, and energy development. The India-US nuclear deal, NSG exemptions, and safeguard agreements with the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) have been crucial milestones in India's nuclear diplomacy. I hope you find the video helpful in constructing your answers to the question. For more such videos and content, follow your host Atish at Srijan India ONE. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed.
Welcome, curious minds, to Ajanta Caves, unveiling ancient art and legends. I am Falcon, and today we embark on a journey through time and stone. Today's question from Art and Culture series is: discuss the significance of Ajanta Caves in context of Indian art and culture, highlight their architectural features and the themes depicted in the murals. Close your eyes and imagine standing at the entrance of Ajanta. Ajanta's story begins over 2 millennia ago. You must be curious to know who were the architects, what inspired them. Under the enlightened Vakataka rulers, Ajanta bloomed. The Ajanta caves, located in Maharashtra, India, were built between the 2nd century and the 6th century. These rock-cut caves are a UNESCO World Heritage Site and are renowned for their exquisite murals and sculptures. The Ajanta caves are a group of rock-cut cave temples and monasteries. They were excavated between the 1st century and the 7th century. The caves consist of two types: chaityas, known as sanctuaries, and viharas, known as monasteries. Ajanta is celebrated for its exquisite wall paintings. These frescoes depict colorful Buddhist legends, divinities, and Jataka stories. The level of exuberance and vitality in these paintings is unparalleled in Indian art. In 1983, Ajanta caves were designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. They exemplify ancient Buddhist rock-cut architecture and provide insights into India's socio-cultural and religious history. Remember, Ajanta caves are not just stone chambers, they are a testament to human creativity and devotion. Now let's discuss significance of Ajanta caves in Indian art and culture. The Ajanta caves are among the earliest examples of Buddhist architecture in India, showcasing the evolution of Buddhist religious art. The caves preserve a vast array of Buddhist art, including paintings and sculptures that depict various aspects of Buddhist teachings and stories. The artistic styles and techniques seen in Ajanta influenced the development of art in other regions, including Southeast Asia. The caves reflect the cultural and artistic exchanges between India and other regions, particularly during the Gupta period. The murals provide valuable insights into the socio-economic, cultural, and religious life of ancient India. What are the architectural features of the Ajanta caves? Now, let's discuss. Ajanta caves have chaityas and viharas. These caves include both chaityas, known as prayer holes, and viharas, known as monasteries, with intricate carvings and sculptures. The caves are adorned with detailed sculptures depicting various Buddhist deities, bodhisattvas, and scenes from the life of Buddha. The presence of elaborately carved pillars and spacious halls adds to the architectural grandeur of the caves. Some of the themes depicted in murals are Jatka tales. Many murals depict the Jatka tales, which are stories of the previous lives of Buddha, emphasizing moral and ethical lessons. The life events of Buddha from his birth to enlightenment and beyond are vividly portrayed in the murals. The frescoes also provide glimpses into the contemporary life of ancient India, including scenes of royal courts, common people, and nature. The caves were patronized by various kings, including the Satavahanas and Vakataka dynasties. Notable patrons include King Harisena of the Vakataka dynasty, who played a significant role in the later phase of construction. The Ajanta caves stand as a testament to the rich Buddhist heritage and art of ancient India, highlighting various aspects of life during that period. They not only preserve the artistic and cultural achievements of the past, but also continue to inspire future generations with their timeless beauty and historical significance. So, dear listeners, as you step out of this virtual cave, carry with you the spirit of Ajanta, the dance of light and shadow, the brushstrokes of forgotten artists, and the reverence for our shared heritage. Now, tell me, how do the murals in the Ajanta caves provide insights into the social and economic life of ancient India? Let me know in the comment section. Do you know what are the different types of Buddhist art found in the Ajanta caves? Write down in the comment section. Until our next episode, this is Falcon signing off with gratitude for the past and curiosity for the future. Stay tuned for more captivating stories from the annals of history.
Hello all, welcome back to our podcast series. This is your host Arjuna. We'll continue with our discussion on economic survey. So this is the chapter number 2. Monetary management and financial intermediation. Stability is the watchword. So India's banking and financial sectors have displayed a stellar performance in financial year 24 despite continuous geopolitical challenges. While the outlook for India's financial sector appears bright, some areas will require focused attention going forward. First, policy rate. RBI maintained a steady policy rate throughout the year with overall inflation rate under control. The Monetary Policy Committee maintained the status quo on the policy rate at 6.5% in financial year 24. The Monetary Policy Committee is constituted by central government and led by Governor of RBI. MPC was constituted under the RBI Act 1934 as an initiative to bring more transparency and accountability in fixing the monetary policy of India. Some of the tools of the monetary policy are repo rate, reverse repo rate, liquidity adjustment facility, marginal standing facility, bank rate, cash reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratio, open market operation, market stabilization scheme. Second, money supply. Growth in the broad money M3 excluding the impact of merger of HDFC with HDFC Bank was 11.02% year on year. There are some tools to measure the money supply. The tools are M0, which is paper money and coin currency in circulation, M1, this is M0 plus demand deposits and traveler's check. Third, M2, which is M1 plus saving deposit
and money market shares. Fourth is M3, which is M2 plus large time deposits, institutional money market funds, and short term repo. Now the third is credit dispersal. Scheduled commercial bank stood at 164.3 lakh crore, growing by 20.2%. Fourth, double-digit growth in bank credit, gross and net non-performing asset at multi-year lows, and improvement in bank asset quality highlights the government's commitment to a healthy and stable banking sector. The gross non-performing assets ratio of the scheduled commercial banks continued their downward trends, reaching a 12-year low of 2.8% at the end of March 2024. Fifth, credit growth remains robust, mainly driven by lending to services and personal loans. Agriculture and allied activities witnessed double-digit growth in credit during FY24. Industrial credit growth was 8.5% compared to 5.2% a year ago. The boost in credit dispersal to micro, small, medium enterprises has been supported by the availability of collateral-free loans with a 100% guarantee under the Emergency Credit Link Guarantee Scheme. Sixth, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which has been recognized as an effective solution for the twin balance sheet problem. In the last 8 years, 31,394 corporate debtors involving a value of Rs 13.9 lakh crore have been disposed of as on March 2024. The IBC 2016 is the bankruptcy law of India that consolidates and amends the existing laws relating to insolvency and bankruptcy of corporate persons, partnership firms, and individuals. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India was established under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. It is a statutory body responsible for making and implementing rules and regulations for insolvency and bankruptcy resolution of corporate persons, partnership firms, and individuals in India. Seventh, the asset reconstruction companies regulated under the SARFAESI Act are emerging as an alternative channel for investors to assess the NPAs held by the banks. Eighth, financial inclusion. It is not just a goal, but also an enabler for sustainable economic growth, reduction of inequality, and elimination of poverty. Ninth, 36.9 lakh crore transferred via direct benefit transfer since its inception in 2013. 10th, the next big challenge is digital financial inclusion. Digital financial inclusion involves arranging cost-effective digital means to reach currently financially excluded and underserved citizens with a range of formal financial services suited to their needs. 11th, India is among the fastest growing fintech markets in the world, hailing as the third largest growing fintech economy. 12th, microfinance. The Indian microfinance sector emerges as the second largest in the world after China. 13th, primary capital markets, which facilitated capital formation of 10.9 lakh crore during financial year 24. 14th, secondary markets. The market capitalization of the Indian stock market has seen a remarkable surge, with the market capitalization to GDP ratio of 124% in financial year 24 being the fifth largest in the world. 15th, dominance of banking support to credit, which is being reduced, and the role of capital market is rising. As India's financial sector undergoes critical transformation, it must brace for likely vulnerabilities. India poised to emerge as one of the fastest growing insurance markets in the coming decade. Overall insurance density increased from 91 USD in FY22 to USD 92 in FY23. 16th, pension sector. The population pension coverage under the two schemes, namely National Pension Scheme and Atal Pension Yojana, as the share of total population has increased from 1.2% in FY17 to 5.3% in FY24. Let's understand what is National Pension Scheme. National Pension Scheme, that is NPS, is a retirement investment plan initiated by the Indian government. It is regulated by the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. Some of the features of NPS. NPS is a voluntary scheme that allows individuals to invest in a pension account for their retirement. NPS is open to employees from public, private, and unorganized sectors, excluding armed force personnel. Subscribers are encouraged to make regular contribution to their NPS accounts during their employment. After retirement, subscriber can withdraw a certain percentage of accumulated corpus as a lump sum. The remaining amount is received as a monthly pension. Who can join NPS? Any Indian citizen between the age of 18 and 65 can join NPS. Both salaried and self-employed individuals can participate in the scheme. NPS is also open to NRIs on a voluntary basis. Other scheme is Atal Pension Yojana. The scheme was launched on 9th May 2015 with the objective of creating a universal social security system for all Indians, especially the poor, the underprivileged, and the workers in the unorganized sector, administered by Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority through National Pension System. Eligibility: any citizen of India can join APY scheme. The age of the subscribers should be between 18 to 40 years. It provides a minimum guaranteed pension ranging from 1000 rupees to 5000 rupees on attaining 60 years of age. Contribution to the Atal Pension Yojana are eligible for tax benefit also. So I hope you have liked our content. This is all we have for today. Thank you so much for your attention. Please like and subscribe to our channel and keep a regular visit. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, welcome back to this amazing podcast series managed by Srijan India ONE. I am your host Anu. So today we are here to discuss the impacts of urbanization on marginalized and poorer sections of the society. Before starting, I have a quick question for you all to answer. What according to you is the distinguishing feature between an urban and rural society? Mention your answers in the comment section below. Now let us begin. The rapid glitters of society create an instance of influence on the rural beings, causing a large-scale migration of people from rural to urban areas, thus adding to the effects of marginalization. Urbanization is the rapid migration of people from rural to urban areas, causing a major problem of urban sprawl. As of 2022, the urban population constituted 35.87% of the total population of India. According to Marvin Olson, urbanization must consist of an inward flow of a large number of people from scattered rural areas to urban communities. The adverse effects of urbanization can initiate spatial segregation, causing the development of slums in the peripheral areas of the town. A great example of this includes the formation of Dharavi slum in Mumbai. An eminent effect of migration is also the overpopulation consensus, which causes a crunch of resources available to the individuals. Now, you can understand this with the impact of limited means and the unwanted demands that individuals usually have. The effect of social stigmatization is a result of an unprecedented influx of people in the urban agglomeration, causing discrimination based on caste, religion, class, and social interactions. Often in the news, we hear of people getting rejected for acquiring rental accommodation in posh communities because they belong to a certain neighborhood or are considered to be of a neglected category. Urbanization, if not handled carefully, can cause a soar in real estate prices, thereby increasing the divide between the poor and rich in society. Megacities like Mumbai and Delhi face this grave problem of getting good ventilated apartments at affordable housing prices. Often the residents complain of getting capsule-sized living spaces. This is a sad reality. The marginalized communities are adversely affected in terms of social, economic, and political disparities. The social effects of urbanization will include educational disparities, problems of adhering to the new practices, psychological trauma, discrimination, and an inferiority complex, which often leads to problems like depression and loneliness. A set of economic disadvantages will include a series of exploitative tendencies in the informal workplace, alienation from the work life, and imbalance of personal and professional commitments. This also relates to the concept of wage labor paradox formulated by Karl Marx. Culturally, the migrants will find it difficult to adjust to the new cultural establishment. Changes in social structures like family, kinship, and interpersonal relationships. Every coin has two sides. The same goes with this process of urbanization as well. It's a two-edged sword which can benefit immensely if utilized correctly. Urbanization can help formulate a tendency of melting pot, wherein the diversities of the country are amalgamated well together. The process of innovation and skill development can be enhanced with the ongoing process of migration in different sectors of the economy. You will be surprised to know that the slums of Dharavi cater to a large market of micro, small, and mini industries.
especially the cottage ones. The initiation of government policies like Ujjwala scheme, Har Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, rationing and PDS systems, public educational model schools can help opt for policies which are pro-poor and help mitigate the adverse impacts of urbanization. In conclusion, a well-analyzed urbanized policy can help maintain a fine balance between the adverse and positive effects of urbanization. So, again, I am here with a question for you all before ending. If you are a district collector of a district facing the adverse impacts of urbanization, what will be the necessary steps which you will be taking? To answer this and post the answers on our official website, the link for the same is mentioned in the video below. Thank you so much. Happy learning.